your business grow. Find out more on the Shelby County Economic Development Corporation by clicking their icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
Your information station, WTIM.
Welcome into the WTIM, your information station. My name is Tim Zalabak, your host of the WTIM Morning Show. And before we move with this next great interview, we got to thank our sponsors, People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville, where you always do better at Landmark. On the line today is Valerie Belusco, Community and Economic Development Educator for the University of Illinois Extension. How are you today, Valerie?
I am doing good. How are you, Tim?
I'm doing super well, and we got an interesting topic today. We were just talking about spending money on Christmas presents, lots of local shopping to do out here, but I got to make sure that I'm not spending too much money. I'm stressed out. What is the what is all this called? People spending too much money around the Christmas time, maybe any time of season. Talk to us about this.
Oh, it really can happen any time of year, although sometimes we kind of see more of it happen during the holidays.
Sure.
Call it as emotional spending. And it's just something that we want to be cognizant of so that we don't fall into any kind of traps that would lead us to have debt and, then cause us kind of mental strain.
Sure. Yeah. So that's what we're talking about today. Emotional spending. And you mentioned it can happen all throughout the year, of course. And so what do we need to know? And what are the main effects of emotional spending?
So when we talk about emotional spending, what we're really talking about is spending that is heightened when a person is undergoing stress, grief, moments of extreme happiness or extreme sadness. And whatever the trigger is for you, it can definitely have a negative impact on your finances. So you want to make sure that you are not spending money in response to heightened emotions, kind of like just blindly spending money to maybe find temporary happiness. You want to make sure that you're, making good choices for yourself for the short term and the long term.
Sure. It sounds almost like an impulse. It sounds like almost like not of course, not like a substance issue, but it seems like this is something people would do to maybe calm nerves or any of those types of things.
100%. So when we think about the 5 most common reasons for overspending, a lot of times we think about social pressure. That's, the keeping up with the Joneses and spending beyond your means. Yeah. In my 13-year-old daughter's case, that means spending all of the hard-earned money that she has on the hottest shoes.
Yep, I get it.
Shoes. I am too. So I feel like I've kind of, put that thought in her head. Sometimes it's not accounting for inflation. And older people my age and maybe even a little older, they have seen inflation come and go, and they understand when it comes. They kind of know what triggers to watch for in the markets and in politics. But younger kids sometimes don't understand that. And so not understanding when you're going to have periods of inflation and how it really just takes a very long time for wages to rise, but not necessarily for product costs to rise.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense right there. We're talking about the 5 common reasons for overspending, and of course, it's hard to understand the inflation aspects of things as you're a child. And for that first one you mentioned right there, for social pressure as being the number one there for reasons for overspending, you mentioned an interesting little example right there with your daughter. She loves shoes, overspending on shoes. But right there, I get that. When I was young, the kids in my school, I wanted to match up with their shoes. That social pressure is very strong. And how does that carry over into adult life? You kind of mentioned keeping up with the Joneses, but kind of explain that.
Really, so it never goes away.
Interesting.
It never goes away.
Wow.
As a 40-something-year-old,
Sure.
I still find it myself, and I have to kind of step back sometimes.
Oh.
It can even be exacerbated when you start thinking about what's called lifestyle creep, which is another reason for overspending. Lifestyle creep happens when your expenses go up because your income increases. So when people my age, when we have increased income, all of a sudden we're going, well, now we can afford what so-and-so has. Now we can afford to keep up with the Joneses. And it can be a slippery slope. I'm thinking of, well, homes and cars and pools and boats and, all of those things. It can be a slippery slope. So understanding and kind of acknowledging that, it can be incredibly important.
Absolutely. You moved perfectly into the third reason for overspending right there when we were talking about social pressures. That makes so much sense right there. And you just needing to temper those expectations when you mentioned things like that. I was watching Christmas Vacation, Lampoon's National Vacation, whatever. And that's it right there. He wanted a pool.
Yep, his Christmas bonus.
The Christmas bonus right there. And maybe that was emotional spending right there for that family. What's our next reason for overspending?
You know what? This usually happens with younger people, but credit misconceptions. Sometimes we just don't understand exactly how credit works, and how it really it takes only a few months to get yourself in a bad position, and it takes years to crawl out of that situation. And so it can be very hard. And sometimes we are not thinking about that when we are making purchases, especially this time of year. You see all the good deals and you see, the payment plans, and you think, this is no problem. I can totally do this. But then all of that starts to add up because you're not really focused on how much you're actually spending and when the payments are going to come out and how long the payments are going to last and what interest percent is associated with those payments. And so, it can get out of control pretty quick.
Yeah, these credit misconceptions, that's a big one, especially for this time of year, it seems, because, it is this short couple of months. And you mentioned right there, that's a scary fact that only takes a couple of months to ruin your credit, but years to build that back up. And you can dig yourself that hole just in the holiday months.
In fact, I heard an advertisement in St. Louis the other day for a window company, and they said, no, we'll do your whole house, no payments for 1 year. I thought, oh, wow, that sounds like that could be kind of dangerous.
Yeah.
If you're not thinking about it for a whole year and then all of a sudden you have big payments coming in, if you're getting a whole house of new windows, that can be a lot. Now, sometimes that can be a good thing. If you are properly planning and acknowledging for that and putting that in your budget, having a plan like that could be very beneficial, but you have to be very cognizant of that and make a plan on when and how you're going to pay that back.
Totally. You explained it perfectly right there. I was thinking about the positives and the negatives of that. And if you are not staying on top of the savings and allocating money towards that every month, that year is gonna move by pretty quick. And all of a sudden, like you said, it's gonna be some big payments to get right there. Talking about some credit misconceptions here for our fourth reason for overspending. Let's move on to our fifth here, Miss Valerie Belusco.
So our fifth really is looking at the emotional spending. And that's when, we spend because it makes us feel good. It alleviates sadness or it produces happiness. It's an emotional and psychological event that really happens, and it produces short-term euphoric feelings. For me, I like to kind of say, kind of like eating ice cream. Absolutely love it. When I'm eating ice cream, it just makes me feel so good. But afterwards, you're thinking about all those calories that you just put into your body that was really unnecessary. You weren't even hungry, you really didn't need to eat it. And you kind of have that little bit of self-loathing come in.
Yeah. That's something that's not talked about enough. Shopping can be, equated to just that, like eating ice cream. It feels good while you're doing it. It feels super good to buy that item, and you're going home with it even. It feels good to have something new. But you see a statement in your banking information there, and that immediately goes away right there. It's akin to having withdrawal symptoms or coming down from something if you're an addict of some kind. So you can really tie this emotional spending to something that you can be addicted to, it seems.
100%.
Wow.
This is an addiction. emotional spending isn't always an addiction, but it can certainly turn into addiction. So we just like to, here at Extension, we like to help give people some tips and tricks so that they can make sure that they are spending wisely and not getting caught up in the euphoria of the holiday season.
Sure. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense when you explain it, Miss Valerie Belusco. We're getting set to take our little break right here. Anything else for reasons on emotional spending? We're going to come back with more, of course.
No, I think we'll just chat after break.
Beautiful. Sounds great. We were talking about reasons for emotional spending right there with Valerie Belusco, Community and Economic Development Educator for the University of Illinois Extension. We'll have more on that when we come back. My name's Tim Zalabak, your host of the WTIM Morning Show. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Your information station, WTIM. Radio gets results.
Miller Media Group Advertising works for Taylorville Estates. Here's Administrator Tony Clark.
In the past year, we have doubled our census. So that's been impacted mainly by the radio advertising. That is where we do the majority of our advertising. And our census definitely shows that it works. They lead us in the right direction for the season changing, and they anticipate our upcoming needs before we even have to tell them what they are. We've had consistent growth over the past 12 months. Like I said, we doubled in our census, and that's been the first time in 43 months since prior to COVID that we've gotten to where now we have a waiting list for people to come. So advertising on the radio really does have an impact.
As a registered nurse, I want more than just another workplace. I want a place for my nursing career to thrive. That's why I choose to work at Memorial Health. Memorial is a place where I feel valued and where I'm part of an amazing, supportive team. If that sounds like the place for you too, apply to become a Memorial nurse today. See benefits and schedule an interview online at jobs.memorial.health/nursing. Memorial is an equal opportunity employer.
This is Will Perkins with Taylorville Community Credit Union. Are you looking for a great CD rate? If you are, TCCU has a new CD special that is just what you are looking for. We are currently offering a 7-month share certificate with an annual percentage yield of 5.05% and a minimum deposit of $1,000. This great rate is for a limited time. For more information, please contact us at any of our convenient locations or online at tccu.org. Dividends will be compounded monthly. A penalty for early withdrawal may be imposed. Fees could reduce earnings on the account. Member NCUA.
Santa is bringing good sleep. An all-new Bemco Arctic Breeze, Max Life, or Chatham & Wells mattress from Just Beds can improve your sleep and help you cope with the stress of the season. This month, twin Bemco mattresses $149, queen mattresses just $229. Save up to $300 with the all-new Arctic Breeze hybrid mattresses. As always, free delivery, setup, and haul away. Merry Christmas from the guys at Just Beds. Want less holiday stress? See the Yawn Exterminators at Just Beds on Montvale and Springfield.
Just Beds.
Hi, this is Andrea Bach from the Christian County YMCA, where it's all about youth development, healthy living, and social responsibility. Find out about our great programs and activities at your local YMCA by clicking our icon on the obituary page of TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
Fall means attending your favorite festivals and bonfires. Taylorville Care Center can help get you back to doing what you want, like attending a local fall festival. Find out more by clicking their icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
Your information station, WTIM.
Welcome back to the WTIM Morning Show. I'm your host, Tim Zalabak, and thanks so much to the stream sponsors, People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville, where you always do better at Landmark. On the line today is Valerie Belusco, a Community and Economic Development Educator for the University of Illinois Extension. That whole first half, we talked about emotional spending. We talked about the 5 reasons that emotional spending occurs and how it can really hurt the finances and many other things. Valerie, when we're talking about buying things, and maybe it is emotional, but I really think that this product is going to give a great reaction and it's going to be received well. Is this still emotional spending? I'm having a hard time with that one.
Well, so it really depends on why you're spending the money.
Sure.
as how you're making the decision to spend the money. So is it something that you've thought about for a very long time? Or were you in the store and you saw something flashy and you thought, oh my goodness, this would make so-and-so happy, I'm going to get it, as a last minute without giving it much thought. And so that can be really important. One of the examples that I thought of recently is I had a friend whose mother bought her granddaughter the most beautiful, exquisite, expensive, very, very expensive porcelain doll. Absolutely beautiful, absolutely magnificent, and bought the doll for a 4-year-old. And, grandma was given the gift to the granddaughter, and she was talking about how, now this is just for pretty, you can't play with it, this just up on your shelf. And the 4-year-old was having a really hard time understanding why they would get a gift that was so pretty that they couldn't play with. Because as a 4-year-old, we get, plastic dolls or padded stuffed dollies. We don't get something so exquisite. And the mother was very worried because she knew her grandmother she knew her mom lived on a fixed income and knew that this doll was incredibly expensive, and thought, man, my daughter would have been happy with a $5 doll from Dollar General. Why did she spend all this money? And I think it was because grandma didn't think it through, and grandma wanted to do something so nice, and really meant well, but just didn't think through the needs of herself or her granddaughter. So taking a step back to really think about what you're purchasing, who you're purchasing for, and how that also impacts you and your budget can be incredibly important.
Wow, just so many things to consider when purchasing an item, and right there, that's a really good example that it would be hard to understand that at a young age. You can't play with the beautiful porcelain doll, and grandma definitely thought she was doing the best thing right there. It was very expensive though, and like you said, it could have been done with a $5 doll there. So many things to consider. We were mentioning shoes. I heard you have an example about shoes as well.
So because my daughter is, Miss Fashionista, she's been up on the shoe apps. She's got all of these for shoes. And I too love shoes, but let me tell you, there's a price line that I don't go above. And she looks at shoes that are like hundreds of dollars and, things that she dreams of buying. And so she was showing me a pair of Nike Air Yeezy SP Red October shoes. Longest name for a shoe I had ever heard in my life. I actually had to look it up to make sure I had the right name.
Yeah.
But she's like, Mom, if I could have these are my dream shoes. And I saw the price and I was like choking. I was like, oh, honey, that's a house payment. That is a house payment. You could save that money and you could take it and you could invest it right now and you could spend it later on really great choices instead of it just going to get, torn up and be completely ruined in a year.
Yeah. And I was in that same spot where my mom had no idea how much these crazy shoes can go for, thousands of dollars. And in a kid's mind, it's their dream, but it is not realistic for families out there. It just isn't. Valerie, we're running a little bit close to the end here, but we're talking about emotional spending and all the ways that it can occur. But how can we curb the effects of emotional spending, and how can we prevent that?
Okay, so these are the number one things you want to do. Okay. Try to avoid shopping just to shop. If you don't need to go into a store, don't go in. If you know that you have emotional triggers for spending, if you don't need to be in that store, don't go in. For me, I don't go into Walmart. I Walmart pickup orders, and that way I'm not tempted by all of the pretty stuff that I see on the shelves. I just get what I need. They pack it in my car, and I never step in the store, and it saves me a ton of money.
Just perfect.
Also, make sure that, especially after the holidays, you unsubscribe from all of those deals that you have been following, so that your inbox is not constantly being flooded with here's a new deal, and you take those off your email list, and removing any kind of apps from your phone that are shopping apps. Because when we get bored, especially when it starts to get cold and we get some snow and ice, we all sit at home and we have our cup of coffee and we start scrolling through those apps, and it can get kind of dangerous quick. Yep. So having that temptation gone can be incredibly helpful.
Totally. I'll go shopping out of boredom sometimes, and that's no good. You're just shopping to shop, like you said. And those reasons, those examples right there are all things to do to curb the effects of emotional spending. Valerie, in our last 30 seconds right here, any last words for our listeners?
You know what? This is a wonderful time of year, and we do want to support our local businesses. Keep that in mind, but also keep in mind your needs, your financial situation, and just be a smart spender this holiday season.
Totally. Valerie, thank you so much for being on air with us today.
Thank you.
Absolutely. That's Valerie Belusco, a community and economic development educator for the University of Illinois Extension. My name is Tim Zalabak, your host of the WTIM Morning Show. We'd like to thank our sponsors, People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville, where you always do better at Landmark. You are listening to the WTIM, your information station.
Your information station, WTIM.
SRN News, I'm Jeremy House in Washington. The House has authorized impeachment inquiry into President Biden, authorizing the month-long inquiry ensuring